Greetings this morning, beloved, in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ on this beautiful Wednesday morning. Thank God once again for another day that will be probably overcast, a little bit cooler compared to the heat that we are experiencing. I trust you are well this morning in body, in soul, and also in spirit. I trust that you're looking forward to a great day. We're thankful for the viewers week after week that listen to the recordings or listen to this live broadcast. We trust that you will continue to be blessed with God's precious word. Thank you for your support, for your encouragement, and for your prayers for this ministry, and also your prayers for me as I also remember you in my prayers. Looking forward to a great day. All we want to do is to bring God honor, praise, and glory throughout this day, because He is the King of Kings and He is the Lord of glory. Listen, that most of these messages are on my timeline on Facebook. You're more than welcome to listen to them at any time that is convenient to you and that you are comfortable with. If not, there are messages also that are on YouTube as well, that probably messages that you have missed out on. They're on YouTube. They're on Global Integrated Ministry. That's the name of the channel, Global Integrated Ministry. I encourage you to go have a look at it and see the number of messages that are there. And I encourage you also to subscribe to it. It costs you absolutely nothing to subscribe to the channel. The only thing you will get is a notification of a message that is uploaded onto the channel. It'll cost you nothing, so nothing much to really worry about. For those joining with us this morning for the first time, I trust you too would be blessed with the message this morning. Let's go on with the message. We in Galatians, we in 3:3, Galatians 3:3. Remember, we are studying the Gospel of John, but we are diverting to different verses and references, cross-references, and to learn more and to expound more on the Word of God. We in verse 3, Galatians 3:3. We've only got 4 verses here, and then we want to go back to the book of John itself where we left off. Now, Galatians 3:3 says, how foolish can you be? How stupid you can be. I mean, that's what Paul is trying to say here. He says, after starting your new life in the Spirit, why are you now trying to become perfect by your own human effort? Now, we know that other version says, after beginning in the Spirit, why do you now want or expect to be made perfect in the flesh? Now, we do know, yes, that there are many Christians. There are many Christians that, yes, that begin well in the Spirit, but at the end of the day, they become perfect in the flesh. That means they revert to their former state. They revert to their former state instead of growing more spiritually, enjoying the progress of sanctification, enjoying the progress of separation from the world to God. They revert back to their former state. They revert to their former state. And therefore, that's what Paul probably is referring to when he's speaking to these Galatians. Okay, he says, now are you going to start depending on the flesh to make you perfect? Are you going to depend on the flesh to make you perfect? And you and I should know this morning that we should be depending on the Spirit of God to actually bring us into a perfection. We should be depending on the Spirit of God. Perfection just meaning completeness or into maturity. That's perfection. I think a lot of people have a misconception of the word perfection. When they think of perfection, they think of a perfectionist. That's what they basically think of. They think of a perfectionist. Now, it's not referring here to a perfectionist. It's speaking about someone being made whole, being brought into completeness, being brought into maturity. Now, this morning we basically we want to move on, as we stated last week Wednesday, into the major characteristics of the sinful nature. We want to move on to the major characteristics of the sinful nature. The reason why we want to go into that this morning is basically because why we want to go into that is basically to understand what are the works of the flesh. Now, a lot of people, we basically, as Christians, you and I should know this morning, basically, we constantly hear of this word flesh, or carnality. We constantly hear of it, but we don't know what it comprises of. I'm not saying all of us don't know, but some of us may not know of what it comprises of or what it consists of. What does the flesh basically consist of? Or what does the sinful nature consist of? Or the evil nature, what does it consist of? So we want to have a look and see exactly what it consists of and what are the adverse consequences or the harmful consequences of the flesh, how it affects our spiritual growth in the Lord. All right, so as I say, living in the flesh or living in this sinful nature or evil nature is in living back in the former state that we once were in. Now, we were supposed to be delivered, and then we were supposed to be freed from this sinful nature, but it seems as though that some of us are still caught up in it or still practicing it, and the reason why we need to abstain from it is because we want to grow spiritually. Now, we were taken out of that consequences, taken out of that condition to be made mature in order to become more like Jesus. Remember, we want to grow in the image of God, into the imago Dei, and the only way we're going to grow back into his image, the only way we are going to do that is to abstain and to cut off from the evil nature or the sinful nature or the flesh. Now, today we will probably just look at one of these characteristics, and we would continue in the weeks to come. We need to understand this flesh, and we need to get a clear-cut, crystal clear understanding of it so that we will know how to deal with it. And once we know what it consists of, it will make it easier to deal with it. Now, firstly, we find out that, the characteristics of the selfish nature or the evil nature or of selfish people. First of all, it brings about selfishness. That's one of the components, as I would put it, that we find in the sinful nature, or one of the elements that we find, or one of the characteristics that we find in the sinful nature is selfishness. Now, the characteristics of selfishness or selfish people, we should be selfless people instead of being selfish people. That's how we should be. But this is what the sinful nature actually comprises of one of, this is just one. We're still going to deal with some others as the weeks go on. First of all, we find out is that selfish people, let's understand what is a selfish person. Let's understand what it is. First of all, we find out selfish people, they like to avoid responsibility. They like to avoid responsibility. Now, what do we understand when we say that they like to avoid responsibility? That means simply is that selfish people, they don't like to be responsible for their actions. They don't like to be responsible for their actions. That means they won't take responsibility of the consequences that they are faced with. They will not want to take responsibility for it. That's why they are seen as selfish people. That means that they are mainly concerned about them, and we do know that people that don't like to take responsibility are very defensive people, and they are very protective people against their wrongs, against their injustices. They are very protective against their mistakes. They are very protective and defensive even when they sin, when they fall short. They become very protective and defensive against it. They always would try to prove themselves right instead of admitting, listen, I am wrong and I want to stand accountable for what I have done wrong. Now, an example of this is like, when a criminal is caught, a criminal is caught, and when the criminal has to go to court, and when they in court, the first thing after taking the oath and that, they are asked, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty? Now, even although they would know that they are guilty, in most cases they will try to do what? To prove that they are not guilty. Now, we do know why they will plead not guilty. It is because they are in a defensive mode. They are in a protective mode. They are of the view that the person that they offended or the person that they did injustice to, they feel that that individual is wrong, or that person provoked them to do what they did, and therefore they feel that they are right in what they have done. So they leave it to the court. It's now left in the court's hands to actually determine at the end of that case, after the trials are set, it's left to the court now, the magistrate or the judge now, to determine as to whether this convict or criminal, whether this individual is guilty or not guilty. Now, what they don't understand, now I'm not saying in all cases they plead not guilty. There are some of them who do plead guilty, and there are some who will not take responsibility and accountability, so they will plead not guilty. Now, by them now leaving it in the hands of the court now to determine after the trials as to whether the individual is guilty or not guilty, we do know that sometimes the punishment increases because of wasting the court's time. So therefore, even when they plead for lenience, the court or the magistrate will take into consideration consideration as to how this individual acted, the actions of this individual during this court case, as to whether this individual was remorseful or showed any form of remorse towards the crime committed. And with all this, we find out that then the magistrate will take all this into consideration on how he will handle the judgment and the sentencing of the individual. But you see, what I am getting to is the individual does not want to take responsibility for their actions. Now, these are what we call selfishness. Now, this is one of the characteristics of the sinful nature, being selfish, avoiding responsibility, avoiding, the responsibility. Also, the preference of giving responsibility to others and not to them. They don't want a responsibility. They feel it's better you give it to someone else, but at the end of the day, they want to have the final say. They want to have the last say. This is the kind of individual that is selfish. Now, let's move on. The selfish person has a me-first mentality. They have a me-first mentality. That is simply, it's all about me. That's what it's all about. Selfish people are hard to work with for a reasonable answers, for a reasonable task. Selfish people are hard to work out for a reason. They are hard to work with for a reason. We find out that selfish people are very difficult people to work with for a reason. Now, we know that in teamwork, there's always a need for cooperation. There will always be a need for cooperation in teamwork. Now, we also do know that teamwork is very effective, and we know that if there's any failures, the team takes a responsibility for it, not just the individual. The team cooperates collectively. They cooperate with one another to bring about good results. That's what the expectation is, and at the end of the day, they feel that they are all responsible for the task, and they all will take credit for the task because they worked together as a team and not as an individual. All right, so then you'll find out a selfish person, or a person who has this selfish nature in them. It's all about them and what will they benefit, or how will they benefit from it. If they cannot benefit from it, then they don't want to be part of it. If they're not getting benefit from it, they don't want to be part of it. In essence, it simply means they don't want to work together as a team. They want to work by themselves. They want to work as an individual, because at the end of the day, they want all the credit, and besides getting all the credit from it, they also want to benefit from it. So they want to make this an individual task. They don't want to share it together as a team. So it makes them basically like a self-centered person. That's what they are. They become a self-centered person, that everything must revolve around them, or if anything that needs to be done, they need firstly to be contacted. You need to liaise with them. Everything must be done through them, that they at the end of the day must get all the glory. That is also a selfish person with a selfish, sinful nature. That's from the flesh. That is from this flesh. Being selfish, it comes from the flesh. Now, anything that does not bring them glory, anything that does not benefit them, for them it's a waste of time, it's a waste of energy. For them it's a waste of valuable time and a waste of energy. Why, at the end of the day, that the team must get the glory, the team must benefit, and why not them as a single individual? Why can't they themselves benefit from the task? Now, that is a selfish person. Every day we might be coming across such type of people who are selfish. These kind of people, in fact, they prefer designating. They want to be in a position where they must be in control. That's a selfish person. They want to be in control. They don't want to work as a team. They prefer to be in control. They want to designate responsibilities to others to execute, and end of the day, they want those people to what? To be answerable to them. They must give them the feedback. Everything must come back to them, so that overall they have an overall picture of what is going on, and no one can tell them nothing, because everybody that they have working under them has to be responsible to them, or rather obligated to them, so they must respond back to them. That's more like working in a hierarchical position. That's more or less like working in an hierarchical position, a position where you manipulate, a position where you dictate, and a position where you instruct, and a position where you want people to be obligated to you with answers to what they do, where they're going, and the rest that may go with it. Now, these are self-centered people. They are self-centered people. They don't want to work with you. They want you to work for them. Now, we know this happens much in many organizations, whether it's organizations in communities, or organizations in the government, or even in church organizations. Remember, the local church is an organization, and it is also made up of people who form part and parcel of an organism, right? It forms part of that as well. So we see the twofold relationship of a local church. So it's an organization, and we find out there are some organizations that work together with the influence of the people, the participation of the people, and there are other organizations that work apart from the people. We find the leadership exists on its own, and the leadership controls the congregation. They bring down to the congregation as a chain of command. They make all the decisions, and then they come back to the congregation and tell them what is expected of them. Now, that's also now being selfish, because end of the day, that organization depends on the contributions of all the people that are there in that local local church, they depend on their contributions, whether they like it or not. They depend on those contributions. And therefore, we do know that wherever people contribute, their expectation is to be part and parcel of whatever is going on in that local church or in that congregation. They want to be participants and not just spectators. They don't want to just be passengers on that boat, as I may put it. And the leadership, they are the captains on the boat and the bishops of the boat. So they don't want that. They want to work together with. They want a team effort. That is what they want. But we know that there are denominations and organizations and local churches, we do know, that operate and function like that. They don't want the people to have any say in what they do. So at the end of the day, what they are saying is that we will handle and manage the contributions, and we will make decisions as to how these contributions will be handled and managed, and we will make the final decisions. All we need you is to be the puppets on the strings and to follow our manipulation and our dictation. Now that's been very selfish as being very, very selfish as well. You understand what I am saying this morning? Let's move on. Selfish people, they have very few real friends. That's selfish people as well. They have very few friends, or let's put it this way, real friends. They have more acquaintances than to have friends. And one begs to ask the question, why? Because you do know that friends or real friends won't last long with selfish people. They won't last long with selfish people. We do know that, and we do know that selfish people, it will be very difficult for them to be accepted into the circle of people that are not selfish. Now, if you do know, if there's an individual there that wants to call the shots and wants to be in control, sooner or later we will know that people will distance themselves from such people, and that will leave them with a very few friends. They will just have acquaintances, and we do know that there is a big difference from having a friend and having an acquaintance. An acquaintance is somebody that probably you met over the social media. You speak to them over the social media, but you don't know them personally. You have not met them personally. You don't know them from a bar of blue soap. You just know them because they are on the social media. So they are an acquaintance to you. Until you meet them, spend some time with them, get to know them, get to know exactly who they are and what they are. Then only you can say, now that has become your personal friend, because now you have got into the very space of that individual. When you've got into the space of that individual, then you become a friend to that person. It's not that you invading their territory, but it's just that you have now got into their space by understanding them, by knowing them, and by spending some efficient time with them. You have now moved into their space. Now that you don't do on the social media. You don't go invading people's territories, so you just have an acquaintance on social social media. So we find out that selfish people, because nobody can get along with them, we find out that selfish people have very few friends, because it's all about them. It's all about their own interests, and they don't care about the rest. They don't care about the others. If I use a very strong word, to them the rest can go to hell. That's the way it seems to be. Then let's move on. They can't deal with no. They can't accept no for an answer. That's a selfish person, is that they also cannot handle rejection. They can't handle rejection. It's like trying to handle no for an answer. Not with a selfish person. Their expectation is that others will meet their selfish needs, that others will respect their selfish needs, that others will be obedient to their selfish needs, that others will be subservient to their selfish needs, that others will be subordinate to their selfish needs, that others will bow down to their selfish needs, and therefore they cannot take no for an answer. They cannot take no for an answer. That means they might get irritated, they might get annoyed, they might get fussed up, they might get angry, they might get volatile, they might get militant. Yes, because they feel individually that they are being rejected. When you give them the answer no, it means that you are rejecting them. That means you don't want to bow down to their needs. Now that is a selfish person. That means they always in need, and they always want, and the expectations that they will get what they want, come what may, by hook or by crook, they will get what they want. Either than that, they will feel rejected, and they will tend to distance themselves from you, because they feel that you are telling them no, and you don't want to get them what they want. That is a selfish person. They are only concerned about themselves, especially when they realize that, maybe you got 2 children or 3 children, and you need to try and satisfy all the children, try to meet all the children's needs. But a selfish person, it's all about them. Forget about the rest. It's all about them. You must see to them, meet their needs, whatever they want, they must get it. When they get frustrated, or they even get very, very angry, some of them, they can burst into tempers. When they are rejected, or when they get the answer no, they can get into a temper, and then they begin throwing things around. Sometimes you think it's only like a baby, when a baby is in a cot, and when a baby is angry, the baby will take all the toys and throw it out of the cot. So you think this only happens to children or babies, but you'll be surprised that this also happens to big people as well. They begin throwing everything around, they begin banging everything in the house, they begin getting upset, they begin to, when you talk to them, they get aggressive. You get all these qualities start coming out from where? From a selfish individual that cannot get their way and cannot get what they want. So if you want to tell whether a person is selfish, see how they react to your rejection when they ask you for a favor. Now you do know as well that many people go around asking people for favors, and on most occasions, if the person can do it, whether it's in their means to do it, they will go the extra mile to help help and to assist the individual. But if it's not within their means to assist or help, they will say no to the individual. Now, what I'm saying here now, you must actually see the actions or how that individual will react when you don't give them the favor that they are looking for. When you don't give it to them, then you will see how they react. For example, if you have a small vehicle and they have a truck and they are in expectation that you must come and tow their truck that has broken down with a small vehicle. So you try to tell them, listen, the clutch will burn out and it might be impossible for a small vehicle like this to tow your truck. They will get upset. It's as though you don't want to help them, or you telling them no, or you rejecting them. Why the word reject is used is because sometimes when you use the word no, the individual personally feels they are being rejected. How many individuals have you come across like that? Individuals, when you say, listen, I don't have the funds for that certain occasion. I don't have the funds, or I don't have the funds for that certain event. They feel rejected. Now, why do they feel rejected? Because of selfishness. Basically, because maybe their friends are all attending that event, or their friends are all attending that occasion, or whatever it is, because their friends are attending it, and because the parents have the funds available to give their friends, they feel that they are being rejected by their parents when they get the answer no. Now, the most difficult thing for a selfish person is to take an answer of no. They don't understand the word no. It's like you rejecting them as an individual. You just don't want to give them. It means that you are personally interfering with their body, soul, and spirit. That's what they are trying to say. And then you will see how they react when you say no. Ever come, and I'm closing, and I'll continue next week. Ever come across a child that is spoiled? Ever come across a child that is spoiled? And I'm talking about totally spoiled. You know that the parents will only understand that child the day when they haven't got to give that child. And then they will open up all avenues and all doors for that child to do what they least expect that child to do. Because why? They have been spoiling that child all their life, giving that child or opening up to the demands of that child. Now that child is totally spoiled, and spoiled rotten to the core, getting whatever they expect. They don't know what is no for an answer. Now, I remember one of my relatives that ran his own business. And he always said, that he will meet the children's needs as far as schooling is concerned, their books are concerned, their clothing is concerned, their food is concerned, their shelter is concerned. He was a businessman. He said he will meet their needs. But he said any extras that they need, they will work for it. And what he used to do, probably on weekends or whatever, he used to take them to work in the business so that they could earn an income and get all the extras in life what they needed. Now, he could have afforded. He was rich. He was wealthy. And he could afford to let those children sit comfortably at home and just request this, and while he's not there, order from Kentucky and order from Nando's and order a pizza and do all what the child wants to do, and he will just come home and he'll say, "What's the bill like today?" and he will just cough up and pay. No, No, he taught his children the realities of life, that you one day are going to grow up and you will know what is responsibility. You will understand what is responsibility. And so he says you need to begin learning from now. All the extras that you want to life, you want to go to the movies, you want to go to that event, you want to go to that show, you want to go here, you want to go there, you want to identify with your friends, you need money. Earn your extra luxury money. So weekends they went and holidays they went and they worked in the business to generate their own income. Now, let me tell you, a spoiled child, wait until the day when you tell that child, no, I don't have. Then you will see the reactions to your response. See the reactions of the child and wait for that to tell you something. Wait for that to tell you will regret. I'm telling you, you will regret the day when you haven't got to give, and you will know the reactions of that child, because that child will live throughout life with the knowledge is that they always want, and they will get what they want by hook or by crook. And so when the child starts doing things that you least expect, you have nobody else to blame yourself. Now, there was a child once that grew up in their home. And one day when that child was grown, the child turned around and said to the parents, I hate you. I definitely hate you. Now, I mean, the parents thought, which child would ever hate their own parents, and as to why will they hate their parents? So they asked the child, why do you use such strong terms by saying that you hate us? Why? The child says, as my parents, while I was growing up in this home, brought up by y'all, everything I wanted, I got. Y'all never taught me responsibility. Also, whatever I did, y'all never told me when I was wrong. Y'all never corrected it so that I will do right. They said, yes, you gave me everything, but you'll fail to bring me up as a good, responsible child, knowing right from wrong. Today I am where I am because of the way you brought me up. You'll never had the answer, no. You'll never had the answer, I don't have. You will go out of your way to find it. And there are parents today that will go out of their way to find what their children want, even if it means taking a loan from the bank, even if it means visiting the loan shark, even if it means borrowing from other family members, even means borrowing from the neighbors. It doesn't matter what they will, because they don't have the answer in their mouths, which is no, or we don't have, or rather you can't go. It's only then that they will see the reactions of the child, because that child has become totally selfish. Totally selfish, not concerns about what the parents are going through, more concerned about what they want to do and what they want to do in spite of what or how they get it, but they will do it. So they are basically only concerned about their interests, and then the parents face the music and face the consequences. Bring up a child in the way they should go, so when they get old, they won't depart from it. Bring them up as responsible children. They have needs and they have wants. Parents, parents, make sure you understand the difference between their needs and their wants. I was reading a story the other day of a young girl who studied to become an advocate or a lawyer. That girl knew the conditions of the parents. She didn't want to bother the parents. She took responsibility from a young age. She went and she worked weekends. She worked on holidays. She worked whenever the opportunity struck. She worked and she paid her way through her studies. Today, children have become demanding. Everything must be on the plate. It doesn't matter where and how the parents get it. It must be on the plate. They just want to sit on their laurels, do nothing, do absolutely nothing, and expect everything to be put on the table. Parents, train and teach your children what is responsibility. I was reading the other day another article about two girls working in Checkers. Whenever they had the opportunity, even while they were schooling during weekends, they went to Checkers, they got a job, and they worked on the weekends. They worked in Checkers in their holidays. Today, those two girls, or three girls rather, those three girls today, three sisters, they used to do it from the same family. And today they are managers and supervisors. They have top positions in Checkers. Top positions in Checkers. It all began somewhere. Taking on a responsibility. It makes you selfless instead of selfish. Parents, teach your children responsibility. Teach them the morals and the ethics of life. Teach them these things so tomorrow you will not suffer the consequences thereof. It's so sad that when parents today got to even run around looking for bail money to get their children out of prison. It is so sad. Who else is to blame? Who else is? We can't blame the community. We can't blame the teachers. We can't blame the leadership in the society. We can't blame. It's only the parents that need to take the blame. You see, a selfish person will never take responsibility for the actions. We will continue next week. May the Lord richly bless you. Have an encouraging day. Have an enlightening day. Remember, God loves you and I love you too. Enjoy the rest of your week until we meet again Sunday morning when we preach and teach the unadulterated, inerrant and infallible Word of God. Have a great day and a great week ahead. Shalom.